morning, everyone. This is Michele Hughes from Ageless and Timeless. Today, my guest is Ocean Robbins, who is a really, really wonderful human being. You're going to hear all about his work for all of us in the food world, and we'll be talking about his history and his how he came to where he is today and what he's doing to make it better for all of us. So here we go. Ocean, welcome.
Thank you so much. Great to be with you.
Thank you so much. You know, you look about 20 years old. I know you're not, but how old can you just share with us?
I'm about to turn 51.
Oh, good gosh. Can you believe it, everybody? Look at him. That's what good food and good nutrition does for you, right?
It certainly helps.
I mean, 51, that's just extraordinary. So we're going to talk today about all the work that you've done to make the world a better place. And of course, starting with the very basic premise that food is your medicine, and that's where you focus your energy. So start us off by telling us how you came to be where you are today. I know that everybody asked you, I've looked at your different podcasts, and I'm sure you're sick of describing the same thing over and over, but I know our viewers always want to know, who are they talking to, or who are they watching, and so if you don't mind giving us a little brief thumbnail of your background and your father and this extraordinary story of how you came to be where you are.
Not at all. Well, my grandpa started an ice cream company. It's fairly well known. It's called Baskin Robbins. And my dad, John, grew up with an ice cream cone-shaped swimming pool in the backyard. And he was groomed from early childhood to one day join in running the family business. But when he was in his early 20s, he was offered that chance and he said no. And he walked away from a path that was practically paved with gold and ice cream to, as we jokingly put it in our family, follow his own rocky road. And he ended up moving with my mom to a little island off the coast of Canada where they built a one-room log cabin, grew most of their own food, practiced yoga and meditation for several hours a day, and wound up naming their kid Ocean. And they almost named me Kale, by the way, and this is way before kale was cool. But we did eat a lot of kale and cabbage and carrots and other veggies from the garden. And then as I got a little older, we moved to California, and my dad came out with a book in 1987 called Diet for a New America, which is about how our food choices affect our health, our happiness, and the future of life on Earth. And the book became this runaway bestseller, inspiring millions of people. And one of his readers ended up being my grandpa Irv. In the remarkable twist of fate, my grandpa Irv had lost his brother-in-law and business partner Bert Baskin to heart disease when my dad's uncle Bert was only 54 years old. And now my grandpa was suffering from serious diabetes, weight issues, cardiovascular disease, and his doctors told him he didn't have long to live unless he made some big changes. And then they gave him a copy of a book, Diet for New America, written by
Ocean, sorry to interrupt, but they had no idea that the book was written by his son?
That's correct. The doctors didn't know that. They just thought it was a great book, and they were like, this is the book you should read, Mr. Robbins, if you want to get better. Amazingly enough, my grandpa read the book, and he followed its advice, and he wound up cutting way down on processed foods, giving up sugar, cutting way down on animal products, eating way more whole plant foods, and he got results. He gave up ice cream, by the way, and he ended up reversing his diabetes, reversing his heart disease, getting off a bunch of medications he'd been told he would have to take for the rest of his life. And he lived 19 more healthy years.
Wow.
Aim improved, 7 strokes. He was feeling a lot better. And, you know, when he was on his deathbed 19 years later, he told my dad and I, he said to my dad, when you left Baskin Robbins, I'll be honest, I thought you were crazy. And he said, but thank God some of us have lived long enough to learn a few new things.
No. Did your dad know that he had been influenced by your dad's book, and that was what was the change in his life?
Yeah, he'd let my dad know. He's like, Johnny, a crazy thing happened today, and my doctor gave me a copy of your book. Who would have thought it? You know, so he was happy to, you know, we learned that blood is thicker than ice cream. You know, he was pretty mad when my dad left the company, but he was also grateful that my dad had followed his own star. And the world was better because of it. So,
The ironies of life can be completely amazing and miraculous, of course. I mean,
really,
that twist of fate. But I think just to dive a little deeper into that, what was it that caused your father at that stage of his life, to say no?
well, he was aware of the growing body of research showing that food impacts our health. And honestly, his uncle Bert was dying of heart disease right at the time that the critical decision had to be made. It's part of the reason my grandpa was asking my dad, "Hey, will you join me?" Because my grandpa didn't want to go on running the company on his own.
Yeah.
And, my dad knew that his uncle Bert ate plenty of the family product. And, of course, one ice cream cone's not going to kill anybody, but my dad didn't want to spend his life selling a product that might contribute to more people losing their dads
Mm-hmm.
soon. And so, he decided that he couldn't, in good conscience, dedicate his life to selling ice cream. He also had starting to learn about the impact of dairy farms on cows and how they're treated in industrial operations, and also had significant ethical concerns about that. And obviously, ice cream is a unique combination of saturated fat and sugar that that can be real problematic from a perspective of health. So, my dad chose to walk away and live a very, very different life. And I grew up in a family where we were practically obsessed with food, talked about it all the time. And as I saw my dad's book reaching so many people, I got inspired to see what I could do. Wound up starting a nonprofit when I was 16. Yes, and we had a national tour speaking to school assemblies about the environment and how young people could make a difference in the world. And we included food as a central pillar of that message. And then over time, that spread, working with leaders in 65 countries. And then in 2012, I launched Food Revolution Network to join with my dad directly and focus on food. And we've grown to more than 1 million members now. And our mission is healthy, ethical, and sustainable food for all.
So what's your goal in terms of membership? You're at 1 million. Where do you want to be?
We just want to keep reaching people and then spreading the word. Vanity metrics don't mean that much. It's about the impact we're having in people's lives and the depth and what's actually, ultimately, we want to change the food system is our real goal, to be honest with you. We want, an end to factory farms. We want an end to routine use of antibiotics and animal agriculture. We want an end to government subsidies of junk food and commodities crops, and instead to have government resources supporting getting healthy food to low-income communities. We want everybody, regardless of how much money they have or, where they come from, to have access to healthy food for their families. And we want to stem the tide of the chronic disease epidemic in the United States. We're spending almost 19% of our gross domestic product on disease symptom management. We call it healthcare, but it's really not. So we want to turn that around and save trillions of dollars and millions of lives through promotion of healthy food.
So what do you think is the biggest obstacle to your success in your mission that you've just described for Food Revolution Network?
Well, I mean, in terms of changing the way the world eats, we've got a few big challenges. Government policies are inherently favoring the wealthy, the powerful, and the industrialized over small scale, natural, and wholesome, as well as plant-based. Today's concentrated animal feeding operations or factory farms are only possible because of massive government subsidies of commodities crops like corn and soy, which enable cheap feed for the animals. High fructose corn syrup is possible, brought to you courtesy of the US taxpayer because our corn is also subsidized. White bread, again, courtesy of the US taxpayer, heavily subsidized. But broccoli is not subsidized. Kale is not subsidized. Arugula is not subsidized. The healthiest foods that we should eat more of, the jicama and the mushrooms and all the fruits and vegetables, they're not getting the subsidies, so it creates a marketplace distortion. So that's one challenge, because it means that if you aren't wealthy, you have to spend more in equivalency to eat healthy food, because the playing field is tilted against you, right? Another challenge we face is that junk food is mainstreamized, it's subsidized, but it's also advertised. The processed food industry has a lot of money to spend partly because of the subsidies, they're making a killing off
Yeah.
of foods that are bad for us. But highly packaged foods are also able to sit on shelves for long periods of time, which for our widespread food distribution system, if you can ship something around the world and leave it on a shelf for 2 years and it will still be able to be sold, that's profitable, right?
Yeah.
Something that has higher turnover rate, like something more fresh. So we need to have more local food economies that are more diverse rather than the sort of one size fits all packages that are everywhere that are stale and devoid of nutrition. So moving away from ultra processed foods is critical in this, and changing the way that the industry works is critical. And then we also have consumers who are addicted to processed foods. I mean, the reality is that ultra processed food addiction is a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people I'm working with are trying to get it added to the DSM-5, which
Mm-hmm.
is where we diagnose mental health conditions
Mm-hmm.
and other health conditions, because we need to recognize this. And, 2/3 of our population is overweight or obese. That's not because people haven't been shamed enough, don't have enough body shame, don't care enough what they look like, or don't know that they would like to lose weight. Quite
Mm-hmm.
frankly, they try and fail time and time again, because the issue is that a lot of folks are actually biologically addicted to unhealthy foods. And so what we've got to do is help individuals to understand the tools for food freedom, which often includes bright lines, no sugar, no flour, no processed foods. When we make those shifts, we're able to become more the author of our own food lives. When we
So,
make those shifts, we're able to, again, get choice rather than being a victim of cravings that suck us in.
well, and also there's a sabotage on the food too, because many of the additives are creating those addictions that
Yes.
they don't want us to know about, but people are eating their addiction actually, and only
Yes.
increasing them. And what do you think about the glyphosate, the Roundup issues, and why is it that we haven't made more progress in this country to eliminate glyphosate from the farming protocol?
Well, glyphosate is the primary active ingredient in Roundup.
Yeah,
Um, and glyphosate is a known endocrine disruptor. It's a probable carcinogen according to the World Health Organization. Um, and it's also been patented as an antibiotic, so
yeah,
it can kill bacteria. Um, and the quantity of glyphosate that's in our food supply keeps going up because it's allowed. The EPA keeps changing the regulations to allow for more of it. The reason we have so much glyphosate in our food supply is that it's a weed killer. We have genetically engineered crops that have been specifically created to withstand glyphosate, to be glyphosate resistant or herbicide tolerant. And then it means that farmers can spray glyphosate or Roundup, which contains glyphosate, on the fields and kill the weeds, but not the plants.
right,
The trouble is now that we've got more and more glyphosate in our food system, and
right,
it's causing some problems. And there's some evidence that a lot of cancers are being fueled by
yeah,
this. And if you're wanting to steer clear of glyphosate, then the best thing to do is to avoid, well, going organic is actually the best thing to do, because organically
mhm,
grown foods are specifically not going to include it. But you can also avoid the genetically engineered crops that are
mhm,
generally sprayed with it. That's going to be non-organic corn, non-organic soy, non-organically grown. I mean, those are the biggest ones, to be honest
mhm,
with you.
right,
Cottonseed oil,
right,
big one. Alfalfa is a big one,
right,
and then canola oil
right,
is a significant one as well. And so you want to go organic with those crops in particular if you want to avoid the glyphosate exposure. And then also, it's being used increasingly on wheat as a
yeah,
technique to dry the crop out before harvest. Wheat's
yeah,
not genetically engineered in commercial cultivation today, but
yeah.
it is being sprayed with glyphosate anyway. So going organic with the wheat can also be a really good idea.
But we're the only evolved country that continues to allow. I'm sorry, I said it wrong. I was saying glyphosate, but glyphosate is how you say it, right? So regardless of how you say it, we both know what we mean, and we know it's dangerous, and we know that that the political beings of our country, our leaders, also know this if they've done their homework or they've been listening to people like you who present a very sound understanding of the dangers, and they see the results. So for all
Yeah.
those reasons, why would people like you and others who are lobbyists on the good side, why can't we eliminate that use? Other countries have done it and they use alternative approaches to weed control. So why is it that we continue to allow something that we know is so dangerous to our people?
Well, it's sort of the golden rule. Them who got the gold make the rules sometimes. And the reality is that the toxic food industry is profiting immensely off of a toxic food culture.
Mm-hmm.
So, glyphosate is making certain companies a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also easier for the farmers to spray a weed killer from an airplane than it is to pay farm workers to be out there weeding by hand. So that's just a reality of economics. But at the end of the day, it's worse for the environment and it's worse for public health. Also
Right.
worse for farm worker health, by the way, when pesticides are sprayed on fields. There's no need for glyphosate to grow food, but it is
Right.
convenient and economical, and ultimately economics often rule the day in our food system. That's why at Food Revolution Network, the way we think of it, Food 1.0 is about survival. If you can get enough calories to fill your belly, then that's going to be success.
Mm-hmm.
And 2.0 is about commerce. It's the buying and selling of goods. It's about money, and that's the central driver of the food system. And then Food 3.0 is about health. It's health for our bodies and health for our planet. And there's healthy profits in Food 3.0. It's just they come from healthy food.
So let's take a typical day for you, because I think people want a role model for what if they're going to make a change. And this is all we all know that free choice or choice is really the sum. We are the sum total of our choices. So if we make good choices, we're going to have good results for the most part. There might be some other issues that are influenced, but let's just say, starting with our food, good choices are. And so let's take a typical day for you, so people understand what this all means in terms of action. So start us in the morning. Like what do you do when you first?
I mean, what I love to do, okay, after I lounge in bed and remember my dreams for a little bit. Now I'm not perfect, so I might have been known to look at my phone a time or two first thing, but I in my ideal world I'd get up and I would we have an outdoor shower, so I might take a shower in the dawn sunlight perhaps, which is great because it's great to get a little bit of light early in the morning, helps your circadian rhythm to set properly.
Right.
I might put on some headphones and dance to a song. It only takes 5 minutes and it gets my body alive and
Good.
feel like lit up. And then, I'll be honest with you, I usually start work bright and early. I work with an organization of people all over the world, but I'm in California. So by my 7 a.m., it's already 10 a.m. on the East Coast. So, I often get to my desk pretty early. But I love, but I might have a smoothie first. So lately I've been on this, just been experimenting with plant-based proteins, and because there's research coming out showing that they can be quite beneficial, that high animal protein diets are linked to increased risk of cancer and cardiovascular disease, but high plant protein diets are linked to longevity and health. So my favorite morning smoothie is I'll blend up, couple cups of unsweetened Eden soy milk. There's 12 grams of protein per cup in that. Then I'll add in a couple tablespoons of hemp seeds and a couple tablespoons of peanut butter, some vanilla, some frozen bananas. Blend that up. I'm getting 40 plus grams of protein right there before I even had breakfast. And then I'll enjoy, to be honest with you, breakfast is often leftovers from the night before. I'm not a big breakfasty foods kind of person where they're thinking about all the typical breakfasty things like pancakes or waffles or I like wholesome healthy food, so vegetables are good any time of day as far as I'm concerned. So I'm having some legumes and quinoa with vegetables, or some stir fry with rice and veggies, or various things like that. And then, or I do like oatmeal. So sometimes I'll have oatmeal. And I also make a cool savory oatmeal where I put in nutritional yeast and chopped up onions. And I know it sounds weird, but it's kind of amazing. And cook it in unsweetened soy milk. So again, you're getting that amazing protein boost. Hemp seeds get added, nuts get added, and nutritional yeast, soy sauce, olive oil, some cayenne pepper. The result is actually quite remarkably good. So sometimes that's a nice breakfast too. Anyway, then I'm getting to work, and I work hard. I work long hours, and I have good mental clarity for that. I might have some green tea or black tea, and drink lots. I drink a lot of water too. And have some good lunch, which may not be that different than breakfast, depending. Make sure to get some legumes in at least one of those meals for me. And I get some exercise in. My wife and I often play racquetball sometimes in the morning, actually before work. We'll get up at like 6 a.m., go play racquetball at the local gym, then run down to the ocean and jump in the water. That's another great way to start the day. Living in California, the Pacific can be a little chilly, but what a great thing. Sometimes I'm at my desk at 8 and I've already played a good hard game of racquetball and swum in the ocean.
Right.
We'll start to the day, right?
Right.
And then, but sometimes we'll play racquetball later in the day, go for a hike, go for a run. Worst case, if I don't have any time for anything, I'll do a 10-minute run. That's still enough to get the blood pumping and get some steps in. If I have any appointments, I ride my bike to them locally, and that gets me some exercise. I probably am riding a good couple hours a week, and that's just built in wonderful exercise. And I love functional exercise that also accomplishes something. Gardening can also be lovely. I don't do as much of it as I'd like, but at least on the weekends, I get in some gardening. Evening is more family time, and that's where we like sit down to a nice meal and hopefully have a little circle, maybe have some friends over, maybe watch a movie, maybe just have a check-in circle and talk about our days and our lives, whatever it is. I've got kids who are 23 on the autism spectrum, so special needs and special gifts, and we spend lots of time together, which is really, really precious for me. And then I try to get to bed reasonably early. I don't always succeed at this, but my wife and I often take an infrared sauna in the evening and then have a cold plunge. We have a cold plunge too, which is pretty awesome. And then try to be in bed by 10 and get a good 8 hours. So that's
perfect.
That's my ideal sort of rhythm.
Yeah,
I don't think there's ever been a day that's perfect, but those are the intentions.
So tell us what's in that plant protein powder that you use. What are the plant proteins?
I didn't say powder, but I was saying that the smoothie again is unsweetened soy milk from Eden Soy, along with hemp seeds and peanut butter.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about an actual plant protein powder, because I have a couple of them that have been sent to me and I haven't used them yet, but they look like they're pea protein and other things that I don't know. I've been using the whey protein forever and it doesn't seem to bother me, but I read all the controversies on whey, but I use collagen powder and colostrum powder and whey protein. So I think I'm getting through those three, plus all the other fruits and vegetables that go into the smoothie. But it sounds like you don't even put any of those kind of extra additives. Do you take supplements?
I take a few supplements. My favorite one is Complement, which is a sort of one-stop shop for all the basics. It's just got a baseline amount of the basic things that even a healthy plant-based eater is going to benefit from. So they include some DHA and EPA from algae sources, vitamin B12, vitamin D3, magnesium, selenium, zinc, and vitamin K2. And there's reasons why each of these could be beneficial, and they're in small enough amounts that you're not getting like a massive overdose of any of them. Oh, and they have iodine in there too. So that's all in one. And and if you go to foodrevolution.org/complement, by the way, you can get a discount on it.
Okay. Oh, good to know.
Foodrevolution.org/complement. And they also give us a slice of the proceeds, which then supports our work as well.
Well, that's perfect.
That's my favorite sort of one-stop shop supplement. I also take a number of other things, and honestly, companies send me so many things that I'm often experimenting, feeling like,
Me
oh,
too.
what is this lag right now? I'm trying out
Yeah.
butyrate. I'm trying
Yeah.
out chlorophane.
Yeah.
I take some extra vitamin D3. I wanted to get my
Yeah.
blood levels up to a higher level and to
Yeah.
see what that's like. And I take some extra omega-3s beyond what's in complement because
Yeah.
we keep seeing more research about their importance for brain health. And basically, anybody who doesn't eat fish is liable to be low in them. I
Right.
don't take collagen. The research shows that collagen breaks down as an amino acid in the gut, so
Yeah.
it doesn't actually support collagen production. So if you want
Right.
healthy skin, the best thing to do is to eat lots of fruits and vegetables and antioxidants
Yeah.
that neutralize free radicals and support skin health and fight aging. Um, and Yeah, and I occasionally take protein powders. Again, people send me lots of things, and I just like to experiment and see, oh, what happens if I lean into the plant
Mhm.
proteins. And I feel best about the pea proteins. There's different opinions out there, but they all have their own pluses and minuses. I prefer to get my protein mostly from food rather than
Mhm.
supplements. But if you're going to take a supplement, I personally think pea or hemp tend to be some of the best ones. I would steer clear of the soy proteins in general. A little bit's
Right.
not going to kill you, but
Right.
they could be problematic. Highly processed soy foods in general,
Right.
they have some problems. Not so processed soy foods seem to be really, really beneficial, um, but highly processed maybe more concerning. Those are some thoughts as far as whey protein. Honestly, for myself, I would rather not consume animal products if there wasn't
Mhm.
some biological need for it, because I don't
Mhm.
like the way that they impact the planet, and I don't like the way the animals are being treated in a lot of
Mhm.
those systems. Even
Yeah.
organic and pasture raised may not be all that they're cut out to be.
Yeah.
We have free range chickens that are given 3 square feet per bird.
Yeah.
And live indoors all their lives with a little paddocks they can walk out to that no one ever does because it's tiny, and they're essentially still factory farmed in many cases. So,
Yeah.
pasture raised is better, a lot better. That means they have 70 square feet per bird. It's like a whole other universe of
Yeah.
space. They run around outside and they peck in the dirt, and that's what
Yeah.
chickens should be doing. But even then, you still got ethical dilemmas. What happens when they get too old to produce eggs? What
Mhm.
happens to the male chicks, all of whom are going to be slaughtered at birth?
Mhm.
Personally, I'd rather create a more ethical world where I can. So from my personal sensibilities, I'd rather eat lower on the food chain. And
Mhm.
also from an environmental standpoint, anytime you move up the food chain, you get inefficiency, right? Like
Mhm.
you're taking a certain amount of feed and you're turning it into flesh or milk or eggs, and there's a feed conversion ratio, and it's
Mhm.
bad. Like
Mhm.
depending on the animal product, it's anywhere from 3 to 1 to 12 to 1. Um,
Right.
but all in every case, it's a protein factory in reverse. And
On the whey protein ocean, I will only eat organic grass fed. In
uh
fact, if and when I do eat any beef or any animal products, it always has to be grass fed if it's beef, and organic free range if it's poultry,
yeah,
and wild if it's fish. So I
yeah,
would tell everybody, look, if you can't go for the complete plant-based like Ocean does and his father John Robbins does, and your family, of course, then at least be sure to buy ethically with products that are not, one, destroying the planet, and
sure.
two, are better health-wise for you. I was listening to Dr. Gundry podcast last night, and he was talking about what you can buy at Costco. And I was just curious because we were having our call and interview today, and I was just curious, do you ever go to a big box store? Do you ever buy anything there? And if so, what?
um, I don't. I'm probably in the big box store every couple of years for some reason. Mainly that would be if I'm traveling in a city where they don't have even like a Whole Foods or a natural food store. They
Yeah.
might be a Walmart or a Costco or some such thing. And that may be the only place to get tofu or soy milk or organic vegetables.
Yeah.
Um, but in general, those are not a place I tend to frequent because I'd rather support as much as possible
Right.
local businesses. I look at every dollar I spend as a vote. And of
Yeah.
course, I'm voting for my future health, but I'm also voting for the world that I inhabit. And so
Yeah.
I'd like, wherever possible, to have my votes count towards my values. And for
Yeah.
my values, big box stores are not particularly values aligned. They're often putting smaller producers out of business. They're
Yeah.
not necessarily paying their workers super well. A lot of the money doesn't stay in the community. And,
Yeah.
of course, for people who that's what they've got to work with, that's what they got to work with,
Mhm.
but where possible, I prefer to make other choices. And particularly with food, I'd rather support a natural food store that
Mhm.
specializes in natural foods, because I'm
Mhm.
exposed to less infiltrators and so-called greenwashing, like marketing scams. And I'm also going to be able to invest more in the kinds of products and programs that I value. I want to, like I said, build a healthier food economy. Um,
Mhm.
so yes, there's a lot of healthy foods available in a Costco or even a Walmart. In fact, those two vendors are the largest retailers of organic foods in America today. Well, that's
Mhm.
wonderful.
Mhm.
I applaud their efforts. I don't love the fact that Walmart, for example, is also involved in trying to drag down the standards for organics in order to bring
Yeah.
down the price. They're also trying to lobby with the Organic Trade Association to make more pesticides be allowed in organic agriculture, to let
Yeah.
times
Yeah.
they push for organic foods to be able to be irradiated or even genetically engineered.
Yeah.
Thankfully, they haven't won on some of those things, but I don't love that. And again, that's a reason to support giving more economic power to stores and retailers, that are doing the right thing, that have the right values for what I believe in.
Right.
I think
Well,
we should all speak up for what we believe in these
yeah.
politically contentious times. It's not that I'm right and you're wrong, or you're right and I'm wrong. We should all be true to our own conscience, right? Our
You
own
know,
sense of
you know,
integrity.
I love what you're saying, and actually, I'd like to, project that out into the world right now as we face this incredible political divide in our country. And just say, always come from your heart and come from your values. And I was listening to Chris Cuomo. I was kind of shocked, actually, not to change in the subject to politics, but just for a moment, I want to just say I was so impressed with his dissertation about the double assassination attempt on Donald Trump, and how he was basically saying that, come from your values. What's happened to us in this country that we're not uh, outraged by this potential this violence? Even if you don't like the person, at least it's another human being. Doesn't mean you would ever wish bad on somebody unless they've hurt you in a direct way. You should never ever have that value of wanting someone to be hurt, or worse than that, dead. So I agree with you on the food part, because it's just, I think people just don't have enough information. Despite all the work you're doing, a lot of people don't get access, or are just too busy, or just don't care. So I love that you're offering this alternative to people through the Food Revolution Network. And anyone who's watching today, if you have the moment, to please go on Ocean's website, foodrevolution.org, right?
Yep.
WW, and you can join as a member. You have a community of members. You can first read about them, and then join, so you get access to the summits. And of course, all you have to do is turn on YouTube, and you're all over the internet, thank goodness, as the alternative to the other side, which is what's putting on all the weight on people, and the obesity crisis that it's causing in our country. You said two things, and I want to just go back. One is soy. I know you just said that soy can be problematic, and yet you do drink soy and eat tofu. So how do you justify the soy part of your diet with the fact that there is so much controversy over the endocrine eruptor? I mean, the damage it can cause to the hormones.
Well, a lot of the controversy is manufactured. If you actually look at the research, soy is overwhelmingly associated with positive health outcomes. The longest lived, impeccably documented population in the world is the elders of Okinawa, Japan.
Mm-hmm.
They have a traditionally very high soy diet in
Mm-hmm.
Okinawa, Japan. Rates of cancer there are dramatically lower than they are in the United States. When those same people adopt a Western diet or move to the United States, their cancer rates go up. This is not genes. This is diet and lifestyle. Soy is linked to reduced risk of cancers, particularly hormone-dependent cancers. So
Mm-hmm.
women who consume soy have lower risk of breast cancer, dramatically
Mm-hmm.
so. Men, lower risk of prostate cancer, dramatically so. This is not up for debate. This is very documented scientific fact. The phytoestrogens in soy products, some people say, oh, they're feminizing. They'll give men boobs. They'll give women breast cancer because estrogenic foods are problematic for many conditions, right? Especially hormone-dependent cancers. Phytoestrogens are a bit different, though. It seems as if, in some remarkable feat of nature, the body can use them or not. They like fill the receptor cell, and if your body has too much estrogen, they actually block that cell from getting too much more. So,
Yeah.
but on the other hand, they can provide some estrogenic effects when your body is low in estrogen. So women going through menopause will have less hot flashes
Yeah.
and reduce menopausal symptoms and better
Yeah.
sleep when they eat soy products.
Yeah.
But by the same token, somebody who is worried about feminization, who doesn't want estrogen, soy will not be a problem. So
Mm-hmm.
quite remarkable. And my comment was specifically about ultra processed soy products.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that I tend to want to steer clear of soy protein isolate or
Yeah.
soy oil.
Yeah.
Not because they are, to be honest, there's mixed research, but compared to, say, protein from animal products, soy protein isolate is probably going to be better.
Right.
But I do have a little bit of unease anytime something is ultra processed and radically changed from its natural form about
Right.
its impacts, and there's more murky data. I
Right.
can't say we know enough to sound any alarm bells about ultra processed soy, to be honest with you, but it's a little more murky, and I tend to want to steer clear. That said, I don't want to be unclear about this at all. Based on my read of the data, which I think is overwhelming, soy
Mm-hmm.
products are directly linked to better longevity and health outcomes. There's no correlation between soy products and feminization in men. No man boobs, no
Mm-hmm.
reduced sexual function, to the contrary.
Mm-hmm.
No reduced fertility, to the
Mm-hmm.
contrary. Soy is linked to better health outcomes and better sexual function,
And
for men as well as
and
women.
and fermented soy is even probably, if people are concerned about uh, traditional soy products, that fermented soy is very safe, right?
I mean, fermented soy is great. I mean, miso, of course, is very salty, so
Yeah.
but it's a probiotic rich food. Tempeh is really kind of a superfood.
Right.
So that's fermented soybeans, and they're super bioavailable and really good for your gut. Actually, when you eat
Right.
tempeh, they're very nourishing to the microbiome.
Right.
So tempeh is great, but honestly, no problems with edamame. We sometimes cook soybeans. We sprout them first, and
Mm-hmm.
pressure cook them. You want to make sure they're really well cooked and make baked beans with them, and they're very high in protein and they're quite delicious. You can also go with tofu. It's very lightly processed, but it's still, you could make tofu in your own kitchen. It's not
Mm-hmm.
like an ultra processed food. You can make soy milk in your own kitchen. So buying it from a manufacturer that did the work for you is still not a travesty. Again, Eden Soy makes an unsweetened soy milk, which is nothing but organic soybeans and water, 12
Right.
grams of protein per cup. Super
Right.
healthy, in my opinion.
Right. So lately, when you look at the internet, there just is so much discussion about the microbiome. And I heard you say that you're taking a sampling a butyrate product. So why don't you spend a couple of minutes explaining to us how food can influence the positive outcome of the microbiome so that people have healthier guts? Because if people don't know this, it's well proven in many scientific studies that, what is it, 80% of our immunity comes from our gut. So all disease
Yeah.
seems to start in the gut, right? So if people are not focusing on their microbiome, then they're making a huge mistake, because that is really foundational to our health.
Yeah.
So So tell us about what you do or what you suggest people do to be sure that they have a healthy microbiome.
Yeah, I mean, Hippocrates rather famously is quoted as saying, all health begins in the gut. And
That's
it's
right.
pretty darn true. It turns out that our guts are fundamental, not just to digestion, which is kind of obvious, but to our mood. A large amount of the neurotransmitters, the dopamine, the serotonin,
Right.
that make you feel good are actually produced by bacteria in
Right.
the digestive tract. And there are trillions of critters in there, and there's a huge diversity of different kinds. We think of lactobacilli, or as if there's certain good bacteria. Well, actually, you need like millions of different kinds. We don't even have names for most of them, and we're still learning which ones are associated with positive health outcomes. But there's a lot. Gut
Mhm.
dysbiosis can set in when you actually are feeding the bad guys or killing the good guys. The biggest way we kill the good guys is by not feeding them in the first place.
That's right.
So you don't want to feed the bad guys, though. So the bad guys tend to like sugar and
That's right.
the processed foods, and there are microorganisms that actually propagate on those foods and their fermentation byproducts, and they tend to be linked to weight gain, and to
Mhm.
cancer and to a host of other health problems. But by the same token, when you feed the good guys, you create the conditions for them to thrive. So what do the good guys like to eat? One word: fiber. That's
Yep.
what they eat. So there's
Mhm.
two main kinds of fiber. Of course, there's insoluble fiber and soluble fiber, and there's a huge range within each of those. But insoluble fibers, in broad terms, are like a broom. They clean you out. They keep you regular. They keep things moving.
Mhm.
They clean your body of toxins, and they're kind of like,
Mhm.
think of it like they're washing you out, right? And they're a little. You can think of it like fibrous material that just goes, it just grabs things and like sandpaper that scrapes off the bad stuff, right? But then you can think about soluble fiber, which actually dissolves in water and it forms like a gel-like substance. And soluble fiber is, in general terms, what ferments into food for the good bacteria in your gut. So we all need more of both types. They tend to go in packages in Whole Foods. But more fiber is really, really critical. Less than 5% of the US population is getting the recommended amount. The recommended amount is probably too low. Our
Mhm.
Paleolithic ancestors got about 100 grams of fiber a day. I think the average American's getting about 15, when we should be getting probably 30 to 40 to 50.
Mhm.
Maybe we should be getting 100, but that would be difficult for most of us.
Mhm.
But here's the thing to remember: there's no fiber in sugars, there's no fiber in bottled oils,
Mhm.
and there's no fiber in any animal products.
Yep.
Zero. Where fiber
Zero.
is found is in all whole plant foods. Literally every whole plant food contains fiber. No
Right.
animal products contain fiber. So it's about as simple as that. So you want to eat whole plant foods in their natural form as much as possible. Now, there's all different kinds of fiber and different ones, and they're all good for you. Legumes are really rich sources of fiber, a little higher in the insoluble, but they've got both. And the reason some people get gas when they are eating a lot of beans is that actually one of the things that's happening is that the bacteria are going yum yum yum, and they're propagating really fast, and one
Mhm.
of their byproducts can be flatulence. So
Mhm.
that will often settle out for people who eat beans regularly. But like a muscle that's getting stronger, you don't want to work out with 100-pound dumbbells the first time you go to the gym. So if
Mhm.
you haven't been eating a lot of legumes, don't start with 5 cups. Start with
Mhm.
tablespoons, see how that digests, and then gradually add more and see
And
how
if
your
you
body
soak,
does.
yeah, and if you soak them, I'm sorry to interrupt you,
Yeah.
but if you soak them first, you're getting rid of those. What is it? There's a name for what
Yeah,
causes.
problematic lectins that might be in there. If
Yeah.
you soak them, or we like to sort of start them sprouting. We'll give them about 48 hours before we
Mhm.
cook them, and then we make sure to pressure cook them well. And then
Mhm.
beans can be wonderful. If you're still struggling with digestive issues with them, try adding some enzymes after they're cooked with your
Mhm.
meal. Vino is a famous one. There's lots of others. Or you could cook them with some kombu seaweed, which for some reason seems to be beneficial. So, legumes are great, but there's a lot of other sources of fiber. Vegetables, all the vegetables are good for fiber. Fruits are
Right.
all good for fiber. Music
Right.
is wonderful. And then if you want to go really, really special, like certain foods are particularly high in inulin and other prebiotic fibers that the good bacteria just love to feast on. This is like their most gourmet meals. So
Yeah.
now we're talking about things like jicama, or you can add acacia fiber to your smoothie if you want to get a little extra boost. But really, eating just whole foods is great. Sweet potatoes have lots of wonderful fibers. You can't go wrong in the plant kingdom.
And also in that smoothie, or on top of a puree of whatever you want to call it, if you make a smoothie, like I often put it in a cereal bowl, and then I'll add the hemp and flax and chia, or whatever. And lately I've been doing fenugreek. You can get fenugreek now from one of my podcast guests is marketing that, which is now taken into the powder form, because fenugreek is pretty gruesome if you buy it as a seed, but they do the powder form, and then it's completely efficacious, so it doesn't lose its potency. But if you add, it also is good for testosterone, for those who are looking for natural ways to increase your testosterone. But anyway, so I will take whatever, and then add some nuts, like mostly organic walnuts, because I know that's one of the best. I heard from Dr. Gundry that almonds have the covering of almonds is actually problematic. I had never heard that before, but apparently that's why he recommends Marcona almonds rather than regular. But he says that the actual coverage is a what do you call it? I guess just calling it a lectin tells you it's not good for you. But
I've got to say I disagree with that.
Yeah.
There's all different kinds of lectins. There's thousands of different types. Some are extremely beneficial. There are type of plant proteins, and some can be problematic. But this has been oversimplified.
I agree.
In general, legumes are wonderful. Tomatoes are wonderful. I think Dr. Gundry has, bless him, he's helped some people for sure. Yeah. I appreciate that. I'm very concerned about his focus on lectins, to be honest with you. We just have a disagreement on that, and I just wanted to be on record that.
I'm so glad.
I think it's harmful when people start fearing really healthy foods.
Correct. I'm glad you're saying it, because honestly, I would never want to give up my tomatoes, and particularly when you buy them at the farmer's market and they're just like so amazing. And he wants you to peel them and take the seeds out and all that. Nobody's going to do that. So, I would totally align with you on that. And I only brought it up because I had never heard that the peel of an almond. I mean, who's going to soak an almond and take off all the peels? They might do that in a European country, but not in this country. Right. So anyway, all right. Well, we've come to a place where I knew we would come too quickly, but we have to say goodbye. So I just want to be sure people know how to reach you and get.
Sure. So first, I've got to say, Powered by Plants is our brand new cookbook.
Yes.
30-minute nutrient-loaded meals to help you thrive.
Okay.
It's a beautiful cookbook, and it's all about plant-based nutrition and how you can be powered by plants and get all your needs met. And so it's just about to come out. You can get advanced copies now, depending on when it's released. It might already be in stores. Powered by Plants. And you can go to foodrevolution.org and check out. We've got lots of free website resources, hundreds of articles, recipes, online courses, master classes, summits, resources, action updates. Sign up for our email list and join the movement.
Right.
Help your life.
Just so everybody knows, and I really so respectful of our viewers, but I want everybody to be healthy. And this is why I started the podcast 5 years ago, is I just want, just like you with Food Revolution Network, the more people that we can reach and whose lives we can affect by the information is power movement is a great tribute to not only our own value system and our belief system, but also to healing the world and making the world a better place and making you a better person for having made those positive choices. So here's a person right in front of you today who's done more work, he and his dad, to align us with the values of good health. And they work so hard. So I really encourage everybody to either at least look and read and learn. But if not, if you want to go a step further, join and be a part of this growing network of people who are really embracing a healthy and long and healthy lifestyle. So thank you so much for being with us today, and we really appreciate you and your dad as well.
Thank you so much. Great to be with
All
you.
right. Okay, take care, Ocean. Bye bye.